Slow down, you move too fast. Gotta make the morning last. Kicking down the cobblestones, looking for fun, feeling groovy. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-dum, feeling groovy.
Well, welcome, everybody. I'm going to say this, but it's got a caveat to it. This is season 6, episode 6. And I'm working on reformatting all the things on Substack so that it's just a count, not a season and a count. So, but that's us today, and we are welcoming Linda. Is it Berberich?
It is Berberich. Yes,
Oh, I
exactly.
said it right. Okay.
Sue.
And Linda, before we begin with you, Sandy's got a quote for us.
Okay. Our quote is from Oprah Winfrey. She has some really good thought processes of wisdom. And her quote that we're sharing today is, the biggest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams. And I think Linda's going to tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Linda, welcome to the bridge. And, when I saw your profile on LinkedIn, I saw that even in your email, you're Linda Learning, and I like that. We talk a lot about learning and the process and how we all are different. But kind of introduce yourself and then just tell us a little bit about what you want to talk about first, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So, I am Linda Berberich. I am the founder and chief learning architect at Linda B Learning LLC, which is a learning technology and learning experience consultancy. So I meet people at the place of where machine learning meets human learning and help teams, leaders build really, really cool technology around learning.
Wonderful.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. Sandy, I might need to talk to her.
Yeah, right. She might be a good advocate for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, where did this all begin?
So I was that kid in your class that caught on right away. Like every time as soon as the teacher started teaching, I'm like, oh, okay, I got it. And I would complete my lessons really, really fast. And so given that, I would often teach other kids, right? So someone's having a little trouble, it's not catching on quite as quickly. Teacher would put me with that student and help them. So I did really well in school. I did really well athletically. Like there's literally nothing that I couldn't pick up immediately. And so I got curious, well, why is that the case for me? And that's not the case for everybody. That led me to studying psychology. That's what my background is in, specifically in learning. And then as I was going along, literally as a teenager, I was a passionate theater student myself.
Oh,
and I was driving everybody crazy wanting to run lines with me, because unlike TV, there's no teleprompter when you're on the stage, right? So you have to memorize your lines. And what I ended up doing, because I was a considerate kid, is I wrote my first computer program that allowed me to run my lines with the computer. And so what I found is not only did I have the benefit of now, didn't have to harass my mom or my dad or my brothers or my friends, because they were, after a while it gets old, So, and not only that, the computer is always accurate. It's always listening. And so it was actually, I memorized my lines faster. So then when I was working with the other actors, I could really focus on working with the actors, playing off them, and not trying to remember my lines. Fast forward into college, I start building software there to help people learn languages in the language learning lab. And I discovered a technology that later, when I started my professional career, I actually implemented and won a major e-learning award and influenced the market so that authoring tools, which we now have, we didn't have them. That's why I coded. But by the time authoring tools became a thing in the early 2000s, that very HTML branching technology that I designed as an undergraduate actually became a part of those tools. And they're even there in tools that you use today. So when you see, branching scenarios, I was kind of the brainchild behind bringing that into an actual authoring tool.
Wow.
You are one smart lady.
Well, and I've got a question because I have my own learning style, and it isn't fast. So I'm really glad that you're fast. But a lot of people who are so smart and so fast aren't real patient and aren't good teachers. It sounds like you've got a real blend of patience and understanding and empathy for other people. You pick up, kind of where they're not feeling good. I mean, talk to me more about that, because that's very unique.
Yeah. So everybody's different. Everybody's unique. I had a conversation with someone else who's like, everybody thinks they're special and they're not really special. I go, no, everybody is actually special. We are unique and individual. And so given that, I like to meet people where they are. So instead of having this imposed, this is how I'm going to start this and this is how I'm going to end this, I get a feel and I pay attention and I watch as if, are you picking up what I'm throwing down? And if you're not, then let's back it up a few steps. And in behavioral psychology, we call that shaping, right? So, we would literally do experiments with rats and pigeons where we'd have them in this little environment that had a little lever. And if they press the lever, they get food. Well, they don't know that. You can't say, hey, rat, there's a lever, press it and get some food. You have to actually shape that behavior, right? And that's done through what's called successive approximation. And not to say that humans are rats, because obviously we're not, but shaping also is any type of behavior, right? So human behavior too. So it's just really about, listening, paying attention, and then being flexible enough to adapt on the fly so that your learner, person that you're trying to help, actually is finding you helpful and not, there's that smarty pants again or whatever. So.
Well, you said a really important word, and we focus a lot. We've got several people that we've had on that talk about leadership presence having to do with really listening, and not just listening with your ears and understanding, but with your gut, and then, going with that. And it sounds like that's what you do, and you find success, and the people you work with, are wonderful. Tell me, though, about how you learn, because you learn fast. I mean, so talk to me a little bit about that.
So I strongly believe that part of the reason why I was able to pick up in school so quickly was because I also developed physically quite quickly. So I was walking early, and I was a gymnast as a little kid. I literally started doing gymnastics when I was 2 years old because somebody saw me at a park walking on a beam, and they're just like, how's that kid doing that? You're just learning to walk at that age. How are you not only doing that, but on my tiptoes, twirling around, doing whatever, just playing, right? And so I always say, though, what a lot of people don't know about me is that was an adaptive response, because I was born with really bad eyesight, and no one knew until I was in second grade. And they were like, well, why can't you read off the board, right? So I feel like my kinesthetic senses developed to compensate for the fact that I couldn't really see very well. And so because I had, pretty, advanced kinesthetic skills early, I also picked up reading early. So when my parents would read to me when I was 3 or 4, I started reading spontaneously, and they're just like, how are you doing that? And that, because the book is right there in your face, I could see, again, it wasn't until I was in a place we had to read off a chalkboard. They're like, maybe we should test your eyes. And they're like, oh my gosh, when they actually tested my eyes. But yeah, so there's definitely underpinnings, right? So psychomotor learning, kinesthetic learning is an underpinning to simple cognitive learning. So things that you memorize, things that you have to repeat, things that you have to do in a chain, right? You do like tying your shoes, you do this, then you do this, then you do this. And then all of that underlies more complex cognitive skills, right? Things like problem solving and strategizing and troubleshooting and that kind of thing. And then under all of that, and this gets back to, that empathy piece, is there's an emotional underpinning to learning. There always is, because we all have different experiences. Like I have very positive associations with school because I was successful, but that's not everybody. Oftentimes kids are traumatized, or they had that one teacher that was just so hard on them. And they have that, as a little bit of a barrier, an obstacle that needs to be overcome when you're working with them. And so that's the other piece that I really tune into, is not just what I'm teaching, how it's landing, and how that new information is being integrated or implemented. Are people getting frustrated? Are they, able to, are they getting excited? Because if my whole thing is, if you're not learning, I'm not really teaching.
Right. And you're paying attention. You know what I mean? You're present. You're not thinking about something else when you're working with them. So let me go back just for a second, because I'm thinking what you said is that the kinesthetic piece that you developed early because of your compensation for not seeing well really laid the groundwork in your brain for the success of learning so fast, and maybe even the empathy piece. I mean, that is really, I think, what might give you some of your uniqueness. Not everybody has that. Some people have it naturally, but you seem, well, you have it naturally, and that's so big. That's so big.
Well, and I'm been listening to you, Linda. You're a high energy lady. And I bet you as a little kid, you got bored easily because you caught the concepts quickly. And so then you're sitting there and you're thinking, what's next? And it would be easy to go off into a rabbit hole. Your teachers, hopefully they aligned themselves with you so that they were challenging you where you needed to be challenged.
Well, when I was really young, I was actually, I grew up in a very small farming town. So I was in school with kids, anywhere between my age and, 4 years older than me a lot of times until I went to secondary school. And then when I went to secondary school, my mom sent me to a secondary school where they had, it's the equivalent of an American AP program. It was just called enrichment. And those kids all went to school together from elementary school because there was an experimental school for gifted children close to where I lived. We all went to it. I tested for it, or my mom tested me for it. I guess I don't remember it because it was, I was like 5 or 6. And I qualified, but she didn't want me to have to take a bus in at 5 or 6 to go to this special school. So she made a decision for herself that I would go to just our regular elementary school. And then when I was in grade 8, I would transfer to the secondary school and be in the gifted program there. And I noticed right away the difference between me and the other kids in the program there, like a lot. Like they were, like for me, my dad always used to say to me, he goes, "You're not better than anybody else. You're just different from them." Because a lot of times I'd find, like when I would go to gymnastics meets and stuff, I made friends so easily. And I loved meeting people from other countries, other parts of the world, that had different cultures. I loved that. So I was really shocked when I went into the secondary school and I didn't click with the kids in my gifted program. I did really well academically, but my friends were all the kids in my elective classes, like in theater or foods and nutrition or metal shop or whatever, right? And for the most part, I didn't get a chance to interact with a lot of regular ed kids. So it was kind of a bummer, you take classes that you really love, but didn't necessarily love the other kids. The teachers.
Yeah. So I'm going to put your analysis hat on for a minute. And what do you suppose that was? Do you attribute it to something?
Yeah, I was just different. I was a different kid.
Different.
And
so you didn't, yeah. Did they think they were better, maybe?
I think they thought I was better than them.
Oh, a little bit of competition, huh?
Yeah,
That's
I think
interesting because you're a people connector, which is why you're so successful and you have so many different realms around you. And that probably due a lot to that empathy piece. And you kind of naturally got all the emotional intelligence stuff early.
Well, and as a kid, you don't have the self-confidence. So somebody comes along who's smarter and brighter than you, that feels like a threat.
It intimidates you. Yeah.
Intimidation. And so people back away because they don't know how, they're still trying to figure it out for themselves where they land in the spectrum of learning. And here comes this bright kid that comes along and runs circles around them. They're going to feel threatened.
Yeah. I love the fact, though, that, I mean, when you look at Bloom's taxonomy, you move into analysis and then into synthesis and then into kind of the judgment piece. And you kind of flow right through there, right into the creative piece and the, doing something with it piece.
Yeah.
And then, so I don't know, you're just really a special person.
Oh, thank you.
You know what I mean? You're a regular person, like your dad said, but you're special.
Right.
And there's not too many people that have the gifts that you have,
right,
and that are willing to spread them around.
And I'm going to challenge that a little bit because I really think that a lot of my empathy actually came later in life, or at least now I can look back and go, okay. because my dad would even say things to me about don't be conceited, don't be stuck up, don't, be too full of yourself, kind of thing. Especially as I got to be, like 16, 17 years old. I actually, at that time in my life, I was modeling as well. So in addition to being, doing well in school, doing well athletically, and then now we have this other thing, and I wasn't necessarily, interested in dating, that sort of thing as well. So that was, like, why not? I'm like, because I've got other things that have interest to me, right? Especially thinking about college by that point too, right? But later in life, it wasn't until I encountered something that actually didn't come easy to me. I think that's when the empathy really kicked in. And like, granted, yes, I taught fitness classes as well, and teaching people that doesn't matter, what you look like, how deconditioned you may be. I can start with you and bring you along with me. And so even though I was, people would look at me and go, oh, I can't do that. Look at her, kind of thing. It's like, no, you can do this. This is my job. And again, I would say the thing, if you're not able to follow, then I'm not really teaching you.
Sure.
So it wasn't, but it wasn't until I actually found something difficult.
Yeah. When things come really easy, you don't understand the struggle that other people have, right?
You watch it, but you don't really know. You don't have the lived experience. I mean, you can see it vicariously if you're sensitive. I was a very sensitive kid, so I could, like I'd see something on TV and I'm like, why are they doing that to people? Like, I remember watching Roots. I don't, and my parent, my dad, we had very close Black friends in Oakland that we would travel back and forth with. So when Roots came out, he wanted me to see it, even though I was just like a little kid when that came out. And I remember just like freaking out. I was like, why would you do that to people? Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think you're very unique in that. And I'm gonna encourage you to check out. I'll send you her podcast. Her name's Mishkat Al-Momin, and she's grew up in Lebanon and had lots of war trauma experiences. But her website is about the communication of success. But her whole presence is she doesn't come out and just talk to you. She comes out and listens. And that's where she all her students, they have that connection through listening. And you're doing the same thing. You really are. And that's why students are responding, because it's pretty rare. People hear the word leader and they think they have to put on a leadership hat and be in an upper room or something, and that's not true. Leadership is about presence, and whoever it is you're talking to needs to be the most important person in the world. And that's really what you do. Oh, I'm so impressed. Tell me what you're excited about now.
So I'm really excited. I always say that I'm not the candidate, I'm the campaign manager. So I get excited for when my clients' products are about to release. And one of my favorite clients' products is about to release. So I've been working closely with a professor up at the University of Washington in Seattle. She is the Beverly Cleary Children's Literature and Youth Services professor. So she teaches master's degrees in library science, that kind of thing, information technology, information sciences. Most of the people are going to be teachers and librarians. Anyway, in addition to her scholarly work, she's also for the last 15 years ran a service learning program, which is called Read-A-Rama. And so she's originally from South Carolina. So she ran it out of Clemson. She ran it out of University of South Carolina. And then when she moved to Washington State, she brought it here. And what Camp Read-A-Rama is kind of picture it. It's Girl Scouts meets literacy. Okay, so it's not just decoding and teaching you how to read. It's about learning how to live books. So anything that you read about in a book, there's an activity, there's songs, there's things that you can do in the real world with that. And every activity and song can lead you back to a book. And so Camp Read-A-Rama's camps they can be as short as 2-hour story times. They can be as long as day camps, or in the summer camps. They could be run at libraries. They could be run at church groups, youth groups, Boys and Girls Clubs, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, all of those, anywhere where children between the ages of 4 and 11 are served. And I have to tell you, the thing that gets me so excited and what we're doing as we're about to launch is the outcomes from those kids who attend camps. Because typically camps are targeted towards children that are from underserved communities. So they get to read literature where the characters look and sound like them. They experience the same kind of experiences they might experience, but then they go deeper and they bring in guest speakers. There's activities, there's songs. Michelle's slogan is 100% engagement 100% of the time. So the kids are so immersed and so engaged. So the product that we put together is for the teachers and the librarians and those folks who want to be able to deliver Read-A-Rama programming at their organization. And so we just launched built this entire learning portal. So all of this knowledge that's been in her head, and she's been doing these workshops live, as well as with her graduate students, they go on and do these as well. We took all of that out of her head. I turned it in, I actually coached her so that she could then, anything that we build together, she could use in our university courses. She could also use if she wanted to do live training as well. So I made it super flexible, super easy based on tools she was comfortable with. And then we built a portal around it with all of these amazing curriculum resources that she's garnered over the years, some mindful meditation pieces, all the music, because music's a huge part of it. Not only the songs, but how to sing the songs, like how do you sing in rounds?
Sure.
Educational pieces of how to sing them, as well as the demonstration pieces. And then on top of that as well, just other resources, research resources if people need to get funding to get the program into their organization. So that's launching September 30th. We're having our launch.
That's really cool.
Next week.
Yes, it's so exciting.
Awesome. And that's just wonderful. And, those underserved kids and some of the kids that have some reading challenges, learning how to read, that finding things that they're interested in and the music and all that is just so, it works with the brain. Oh, that's wonderful.
I was going to say, I love the fact that it's right brain, left brain. When you're doing the music and you're doing you're combining that together, which makes it cement better in the kiddo's mind in the learning process.
And it sounds like you're getting the teachers excited too.
It's fun because they're playing with the kids. So it's not at all like school. And the other thing that's really great about it is just like with Girl Scouts, there's sort of a matriculation, right? So I was talking about the children are usually between the ages of 4 and 11 at camp. But part of camp includes what are called CITs, counselors in training, which are young folks that are usually between the ages of 15 and 17 that are just a little bit older than the campers. And most of the CITs have been campers themselves, and then they become CITs, and then they become program staff. And so that's the beautiful thing when we go back and we talk to the people who are campers, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, where are they now?
Yeah.
They're becoming teachers, they're becoming librarians. Yeah. They definitely excelled in school because they love to read, and reading is so integral to success in school.
Yeah.
And just even on the website, I love this about, if you go to the readarama.org website, just hearing the kids' testimonials about what do you like about camp, and just the things the kids say. And it really speaks to, and Michelle also offers story times that she does virtually, which as part of her service learning. It's not just reading the book to the kid. She has a specific way of doing interactive reading with the kids, which, points out the illustrations, asks them what are called book questions, not just, books in the characters in the book, not just relating it back to your own life. And just seeing how the kids respond to that, it's beautiful. Because that's, again, if they're not decoding the words, they're able to get context from the pictures. They're able to get context from the questions being asked. And that really makes a difference, because so many literacy programs, that's what they focus is on, decoding the words. And so for kids who aren't already strong readers, they're putting all their energy and attention onto saying that word S-A-N-D-Y, Sandy, without realizing Sandy's your name. So that's
right. It's jumping it into the content and and that, I taught second and third grade for years. Wow. And I remember this correlation, and I don't know why it's a correlation, but the minute those kids could read internally without saying it out loud, then all of a sudden they would understand that they jumped into not just knowledge, but understanding. and working with it, the questions having to do with how are you going to use this? And yeah, that's fabulous.
Yeah, that's the separate skill that I'm talking about. Because the skill set of how you learn to read is when you're able to read internally, you're no longer focusing on the decoding. That piece has become fluent, and now you're able to understand, read for context, read for understanding, which is ultimately what you have to do from third grade on. If you're not a fluent reader by third grade, you're not going to be successful in school.
Everything else is content. That's right. That's right. I love this correlation too, and you might laugh at it, but I would have boys in my third grade class that would have trouble with handwriting and reading, and I would send them outside to dribble a basketball, and then after they did that big motor stuff, then they could come in and do the small motor stuff, so it's so connected. And
I actually did teach people about the big 6+6, which does talk about the motor skills, right? The big gross motor skills going to the fine motor skills. And so you were ahead of your time doing that.
Oh, well, anyway, I enjoyed it, and I love learning and kind of parsing it out and figuring it out and putting it back together. And the two people I want to connect you with in our focus group is Mishkat, and then we have another guy that we've only talked to once. His name is Nathan. I can't remember his last name, but he has a PhD in learning too, and he does lots of charts. And I told him, I said, next time you're on, you needed to tell me why charts don't talk to me. Give me a chart. I get confused. You know what I mean? And so, but I think we might have to have a panel or something.
Yeah, that would be great.
Because it's almost like a brain trust here. I'm just
awesome.
so thrilled. Okay, now Sandy, you have another question because I'm going to take us in another direction.
Well, I was just going to say, with you having your PhD, you are a lifelong learner. I mean, you don't have to have the degree to be a lifelong learner. We all can be lifelong learners. But you actually, it looks like that was a real focus for you. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I went straight through. So I got my undergraduate degree. I went straight through to graduate school, got my master's and PhD, and then went back in my 30s and got a second master's degree. So all of those back there, that's all of my degrees.
One was psychology. What else was one education, or what were the content areas?
So my undergraduate and my first master's and my doctorate are all in psychology, specifically behavioral psychology. And then my second master's is in kinesiology, focusing on biomechanics and exercise science.
Oh, wow. What a great...
You are amazing, Linda. That's awesome. Yes. I love it.
Okay, so I want to take us back to our dance and improv that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And you know a lot about leadership, you know a lot about connecting with people. Tell me a little bit about dance improv and how it relates in your mind to the skills that you use or need for leadership.
Oh, improvisation in general is so key, because when you're meeting someone where they are, you don't necessarily know where they're going to pivot to, right? So being able to improvise is key. With dance, it's depending too. Are you solo dancing? Are you dancing with a partner? Or are you dancing with an ensemble, right? Because the interplay of how you work with each other, how you improvise with each other is going to be different on any of those situations, right? If it's just you, your improvisation is going to be based on the space and your audience. Mm-hmm. If it's your partner, then the connection and the unison with your partner needs to be there. And when it's an ensemble, there needs to be a connection within the group.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. That flows right into everything, because what's my role, and who am I with? And then it's that instant decision making on where you go. It takes you one way, and then like you say, I like your word, pivot. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So anything else about improv that you could tell somebody who's trying to build their leadership toolbox that they should think about?
I think with improv, it's always about yes and.
Okay.
So that's one of the key things, is that improv, that's the first rule of improv, right? Is that it's all, you always say yes. If you say no, it stops it dead in the water.
Yeah.
So it's a yes and. So you're listening for the what is comes after the and.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Isn't there an improv game called Yes and?
There, I think there is
I
now.
think
Yeah.
there is. I was reading
Yeah.
about some games, and you know, we used to do something called Theater of Chance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's called that anymore, but it was the same thing. You would draw stuff out of, and then you'd have to talk. You know, you'd have to improv with the people around you, and somebody might be a rubber band, and somebody might be George Washington. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, yeah. So anything else? Because
Yeah.
I'm thinking you do it, and you talked earlier before on air about ice skating.
Yeah. So that's my main sport now as an adult. So I started figure skating when I was 40. I skated as a kid. I played hockey. So it wasn't the skating piece that was new to me, but figure skating is very different from just, going out and, public skating or whatever, or even playing hockey, right? The skates are different. Everything's different.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that I encountered something that didn't come naturally to me or easily to me. That was figure skating.
Oh.
So
Is that why you chose it?
That's why I stuck with it.
Okay.
It's because I was intrigued that I was having such a difficult time picking these up. And I didn't think I was, because as I went through my basic skills, I whipped through those, did my first USFS test. USFS is United States Figure Skating. So that's when you're doing competitions. That's the body, right? So I did my first USFS test within 6 months of learning to skate and passed it. Went to take my second one, because like with martial arts, it's almost like belts. In figure skating, you have different levels. When you get to the senior level, that's when you're Olympic. You can start to compete for, nationals, Olympic level, that kind of thing. But there's many levels to get there, right? So I passed my first level, flying colors, took the test for the next level. And I had the same judge that I had on previous panels. So he's like, I want you to practice these a bit more before we pass you on them. Even though, this is passable, we want you to practice them a bit more. So I was like, okay, no problem. It took me 7 more tries and 3 more years to pass.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was very physically fit for, my age being, 40-ish at that time, when I was into, getting into the point where I was testing. And so all of a sudden I'm like, I'm failing tests. I've never failed a test before. And I started to think, and then people would say that to me. It's all like, it's all like, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe you're not as good at it. You just, and so for me, that really lit a fire under me. And that had never been my experience, like in anything I'd ever tried in my life. So I was just like, it was very strange. I never thought I'd compete. I wanted to test because I wanted to get better and improve my skills, but I never thought I would compete. My main thing was like, my coach was very excited about working with me because she'd never taught an adult who didn't figure skate as a kid how to do an axel. And she said, if I'm ever gonna have that experience, it's gonna be with you. And sure enough, on my 45th birthday, I started landing my axel clean. That was my birthday present from her. And in Dorothy's show, I actually did my axel with 2 other adult skaters who could also do axels in one of Dorothy's shows in 2013. So I remember it vividly. It was to Kelly Clarkson's Stronger. And right when we hit the chorus, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, is when all 3 of us went, did our axles, and landed. And so I have that on video. So whenever it says, you never really had an axle,
wow.
I beg to differ. And I can show them that, right?
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
But that was the thing that didn't come easy to me. And that was the thing that really, shook me. And I thought, well, we were talking about improv. Well, I've always been, good at improving, so maybe I don't do competitive figure skating. Maybe I do theatrical skating. And in figure skating, there is a discipline that's called interpretive, which literally is improvising. You don't know what song's going to come on, but when the song comes on, you have to interpret it. And then whoever has the best interpretation of the song wins.
Wow.
So completely subjective, of course,
Right.
but still speaks to that whole point of being able to pivot. And pivot is a move in figure skating, by the way. There is something called a pivot that you do on the ice, but literally to also, on the fly. But
be present and in the moment and
with the music, right?
Yeah.
Interpreting the music. And so that's the connection with dance as well. And that actually, the last time I competed at a high level competition was 2023 sectionals, which was in Las Vegas. I ended up getting, it was my first time going to sectionals, and I ended up getting fourth in both of mine events, which qualified me for nationals. I didn't go. But what I realized from the two events that I was in, it was those theatrical scores. It wasn't the skating skills, it was the theatrical scores and the performance skills that actually, if I'd done stronger elements, I just didn't. Because it didn't occur to me. It's theatrical skating. It's not technical. So why should I do a Lutz instead of just a jump that's easier than that? But that's what I realized when I started looking at the numbers and realizing those other two scores, I actually placed higher than the people who placed ahead of me. That again lit a fire under me. So I'm like, okay, we got to get you now. We know what to do. So, but because I only competed locally, and locally I typically would take first. I think I got second twice, and most of the times that I competed. But it was just so interesting to me that it was so difficult for me. And there was definitely a time where I started to believe other people's stories where they're saying, yeah, this isn't for you. You're not good at this. You're kind of terrible. But here I am, on testing. But when I actually compete, I would win.
Did it take a lot of courage, Linda, to break out and do this? And what kept you going? I mean, just dogged determination?
Well, something did happen. So I mentioned that I had very bad eyesight for most of my life. Mm-hmm. And when I was 42, I had surgery on my eyes. So I had basically implants. So the lenses in my eyes were replaced with crystal lenses that accommodated for all of the different vision problems that I had, and also for, natural deterioration of your sight that you have when you're older. I don't have that. I'm 57 and I can see here. It's not a problem. Because I'd had bad eyesight, those little muscles that control the eyes contractions were just in great little shape because they didn't really have to do anything. And then when I got these put in, so being able to see made a tremendous difference in my ability to skate. And so when I was able to see, I got much better, but I also was able to see people's faces from a distance. So I was able to play off the audience better. I was able to realize if the judges were with me or not, and I could adapt on the fly for that too. And that made a huge difference. And I should say, I didn't even start competing until 2017. So I started skating before that, well before that, did all my testing, started doing shows to kind of dip my toe in because again, it took a lot of courage because I thought, I'm not good. If I was any good, I'd pass the test the first time, but when I started doing shows with Dorothy, and she's such a nice person. And, I told her I wasn't good enough and she goes, we all think that, and you hear that. And she wasn't the only Olympian there. The entire group of coaches were Olympic skaters. And so, like I said, if you go to my Fit Mind Body Conditioning YouTube channel, you'll see me with Dorothy, with Jojo Starbuck, with Randy Gardner and Ty Babylonia. Those were the people. And these were people that were, basically saying, you are good enough. You can do this. Let's just go out and have fun. And we did. And, when you watch the playback, you're like, oh my gosh, that's me. Because in your head, you think one thing, and then after people have told you you're not as good as you think you are, then you think another thing, and then you actually see yourself, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, it's like a dream come true. And so I want to just, we have a ladder of learning that we talk about, and, the first piece is that I don't know what I don't know. And the second piece is I know what I know. So a little bit of competence there. But the third one is that I'm unconsciously competent, meaning I'm kind of a master. I mean, that's really when, I become a judge and I can see through a lens that helps me diagnose what other people need to do. And I can be a teacher and a master. So, and so I'm thinking those Olympians might be in that master category. And no, well, I know.
Yes and no, right? Because they're older now. So they're also very critical of what they used to be able to do. A lot of them can't put into words, but it depends on how you learn as well. Because it's an interaction. It's always an interaction. And so for me, having the opportunity to learn from them, Dorothy has a couple of signature moves. She has her Hamel camel spin. So she taught me how to do that because I really loved it. It's beautiful. And I have a terrible camel spin. It was always my worst spin, but I could do Dorothy's Hamel camel. And so whenever you see me do a camel spin now, that's the one I do. The other one that she taught me is called her goblet spin. It's very goblet, like the vessel you drink out of. It's very easy spin to do. But the thing is, one of the other things that I got from Dorothy is that it doesn't have to be such a big, difficult thing. It's the flair and the extension and the skating through your fingertips. It's that makes something even simple look beautiful. And so we were doing actually one of the ice dance. It's a lower level ice dance. It's just the bronze level, I believe, that we, instead of doing it, typically you would do it either solo or with a partner. We did it in a pod of 6 of us. And I was right beside Dorothy. So that means, when we turn, we have to turn synchronized, everything needs, and we're attached. So if one of us messes up, it's like dominoes. So anyway, I was the only one in there that was not a show skater from that Dorothy Hamill skated with since she was a child. So, but they're like, oh, but you're an ice dancer. Because that's a discipline that I also do. And that was actually the one that I excelled at, was ice dance. Yeah. So so we're doing this dance together, the Fiesta Tango, and they come to the end pattern where you have to do a mohawk, a 2-foot turn. And I tripped Dorothy Hamill.
Oh, no. Oh.
During rehearsal, but like I said, one of us goes down, we all go down. And so we're off the music, of course. And of course, I feel horrible because, I've just tripped the star.
Taking her down.
Yeah. And so, of course, I was like, oh, you've got to put someone else in. You can't have me do it. And Dorothy was like, absolutely not. And of course, when we did it in the show, it was beautiful. And it was perfectly unison. But in my head, I kept hearing, point your toes, extend your legs, because I'm taller than Dorothy and I have very long legs. That's why I tripped her, is because my long leg got right underneath hers. So I just remembered the ballet lessons: extend through your foot, point through your toe. And
I would love to see those. I think that would be such a cool
thing to come up. Yeah. Well, what you were describing about, the technical piece is one thing, but doing it well, you take a leap into what it looks like. And that reminds me of what you were talking about when kids learn to read, from the sounding it out to the content where they can start reading fast and be excited about what they're reading. Oh, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. Oh, I'm just so overwhelmed and so thrilled that you came on with us. And so we kind of always end our podcast with one question. Mm-hmm. What is one thing, Linda, you're taking away from this conversation today?
I loved your take on leadership and it not being this, it being this thing where you're listening more and you're curious more and you're more open to interpretation and you're more open to improvising. I love that take.
Okay. Sandy, what is your takeaway?
My takeaway is what I started out the program with. She lived her adventure. The biggest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams. And Linda, you have done that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a stone left unturned in your life, is there?
I could stand to have a partner in crime. I think that we still need to turn that stone over.
Okay.
So my takeaway is, I love the way that you break things down and then put them back together. Mm-hmm. And I also love the fact that you kept seeking something that you did hit a wall, because that's so important for a lifelong learner to know that you can learn something that's difficult for you, and then that's so helpful when you're dealing with people that do have deficits and problems, to have that knowledge that you've run into it too, and you can listen differently. Oh, and I have another one. I'm just thrilled and impressed with your empathy. I just love it.
I think too, like going back to your last point, in addition to, other people, becoming more relatable to other people, because, look, there's something that wasn't easy for her either. You develop a sense of humility. Like, I think that's something I really needed. And that was something my father always tried to instill in me and never did. It wasn't until I wasn't successful at something that it humbled me. And I actually skated a song, Tim McGraw's Humble and Kind. I
Oh,
skated that
nice.
as a tribute to my father. And actually that was one of the ones that I was telling you about competing in Vegas. That was one of the songs that I competed, was Humble and Kind, because, you know, just the lyrics of the song as you're hearing it, like it's a waltz tempo anyway. So it's just very beautiful, but always be humble and kind.
Yeah.
When is that never the right advice?
Right.
I don't know. And just recently, the last month, every time I have a conversation about leadership, and well, not leadership, more learning, being a lifelong learner, I'm connecting it to humility, because I do have to, you know, get off my high horse to learn something,
Yeah.
whether it's easy or hard. So, oh, I love it. Okay. Well, will you promise to come back sometime?
Of course. Of
Oh,
course.
good.
Good.
Good,
Yeah.
good, good. And we're going to look you up, and I'm going to try to put some of your connections on the notes that we have so that people can look into it. And thank you, thank you, thank you. So when we're going to sign off, but I want you to hang around just for a minute, okay?
Okay, sounds
Thanks.
good.